Today on Public Eye News, body of a man swept from pier recovered in Lake, Michigan. 1 killed, 12 wounded in market explosion in Iraq's capital.
Later, Martin, we'll have your weather for the weekend, and Scott will be back with your sports update. Hi, I'm Ross Ray.
And I'm Mitchell Reif, and this is Public Eye News. A final forum was held yesterday on April 14th over Zoom. NMU President Fritz Erickson presented future plans for the NMU community. Although Erickson is confident that NMU will be returning to in-person, face-to-face classes, he has his strategic plan in place to help with new innovation around campus. An important part of this master plan is to add an addition in West Hall, dedicated to lab space. Erickson also urges anyone who is interested in making their voices heard to email NMU President at WNMU-TV with the subject line Strategic Plan before April 19th with any ideas or suggestions. In Delta Township, a man and a 5-year-old girl have been shot to death alongside a wounded 3-year-old boy in a mid-Michigan home. Deputies responding to the report reached the scene around 11 p.m. The young boy was found in the home around 6 miles outside of Lansing, Michigan. He was taken to the hospital later that night. News on a recent story, a teen was recently in possession of an explosive. Reports say he brought a homemade explosive into his school and classroom, and when showing off to his friends, it suddenly went off. When his father, David Saylor, went to the state and federal court, he was charged with a variety of crimes, including possession of unregistered explosives.
The body of a man was found yesterday near South Pier at Silver Beach in St. Joseph. The Michigan State Police dive team located the body of 27-year-old Dakota Yargu, who was swept off last month from a pier into Lake Michigan. Yargu and another man were reportedly on the pier on March 28th when it was struck by a large wave. While one of the two were able to get out, Yargu unfortunately did not. And earlier today, the University of Wisconsin-Madison hired former Foxconn Technology Group official to help lead its efforts to build and expand partnerships with the school. UW-Madison has brought on Foxconn's former Deputy Director of U.S. Strategic Initiatives, John Garanetti. Garanetti hiring comes about halfway through the 5-year agreement between the university and the Taiwanese technology company. Garanetti will direct the university's Office of Business Engagement to help create partnerships with companies looking to engage with the school. And yesterday, a former state employee was charged with embezzlement after investigators discovered he had sold more than $855,000 paid by well owners who needed permits. 49-year-old Joseph Petty worked for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, also known as EGLE, where companies that drill or operate gas and oil wells would pay performance bonds to the state. The state believes that the figure most likely reached $1.5 million, but the statute of limitations has run out on some of the alleged acts. Petty now faces 8 felonies, including 3 counts of embezzlement, more than $100,000, and using a computer to commit a crime. And don't touch that dial, because after this break, we'll be back with your national and international news.
75 years ago, Lieutenant Commander William Scott Thomas sailed for Normandy. I'm his granddaughter, Kristin.
I don't really remember Grandpa talking about the war.
And I'm going to explore what my grandfather actually did during that conflict.
We sailed for Dunkirk at 12:35.
The fortitude to keep your wits about while you're dodging bombs.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, it's crazy.
My grandparents.
Sunday night at 8 on WNMU-TV.
And welcome back. In Tehran, Iran has finalized its purchase of Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines. Iranian Ambassador Kazim Jalali has finalized and signed the contract. The purchase order for the vaccines will be able to inoculate 30 million people. On Saturday, Iran began a 10-day lockdown, receiving yet another wave of coronavirus infections. As of now, Tehran and 250 other cities and towns surrounding the area have been declared red zones. Following the infections is the 2-week holiday for Nowruz, the Persian New Year. Traveling to Caspian Coast and other vacation spots, millions of people have packed shops and homes in defiance of the government's health guidelines. In London, Prince William and Prince Harry refused to walk side by side as they enter the church for Prince Philip's funeral. Since Harry's decision to step away from his royal duties last year, the two have had strained relations. On Thursday, Buckingham Palace released outlines of the program for the funeral for Queen Elizabeth II's late husband. Princess Anne and heir to the throne, Prince Charles, will be leading the 15-member procession. There has been no comment on whether or not the separation of the two brothers was an effort to prevent family tension.
French President Emmanuel Macron visited the Notre Dame Cathedral building site today, just 2 years after a fire tore through the Paris's most famous cathedral and shocked the whole world. Despite the slow pace due to the pandemic, Macron has promised the cathedral would be rebuilt by 2024. Yet officials acknowledge the work will not be fully completed by then, as restoration efforts have yet to begin. And earlier today, one person has died and 12 others have been injured after an explosion rocked a market in Baghdad's capital, Sadr City. The military said the blast is caused by a car laden with highly explosive materials that blew up while passing through a popular used furniture market. Iraq's president has condemned the attack, calling it a shameless attempt by terrorist groups to destabilize the country during the holy month of Ramadan. And President Biden has announced all U.S. combat troops will be out of Afghanistan by September 11th, 20 years to the date of the 9/11 attacks that al-Qaeda terrorists coordinated from Afghanistan. But critics said the hard end date could lead to more chaos and give Taliban free rein to reinstitute harsh Islamic rule. Deborah Alfron reports from Washington.
Good afternoon.
President Biden says it is time to end America's longest war, announcing all U.S. combat troops will leave Afghanistan by September 11th.
I'm now the fourth United States president to preside over American troop presence in Afghanistan. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I will not pass this responsibility on to a 5th.
The deadline marks the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks that started the war. The president says his decision is based on al-Qaeda no longer posing a threat to the U.S. homeland and seeing no military solution to the problems there.
While we'll not stay involved in Afghanistan militarily, our diplomatic and humanitarian work will continue. We'll continue to support the government of Afghanistan.
Some 3,300 U.S. troops will start leaving May 1st, a date the Trump administration had previously negotiated for all of them to be out. On Capitol Hill, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell voiced opposition to the pullout, echoing concerns the Taliban, that controls a portion of the country and harbored al-Qaeda, will regain a foothold and reinstate harsh Islamic law.
Apparently, we're to help our adversaries ring in the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks by gift-wrapping the country and handing it right back to them.
The war cost the U.S. taxpayers trillions of dollars and saw more than 2,400 American lives lost. President Biden visited Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery after his speech, honoring the sacrifice of troops who died in Afghanistan. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
And off the coast of Louisiana tonight, a desperate search continues for crew members from a ship that capsized in the Gulf of Mexico on Tuesday in the hurricane-force winds. Rough seas have slowed the search. CBS's Jesse Mitchell has the latest from the Louisiana coast.
Cell phone video of the capsized boat shows a Coast Guard cutter and several private boats racing to help pull people out of the rough seas.
We have rescued 6 survivors. Unfortunately, we recovered 1 individual on the surface of the water, deceased.
The ship, Seacor Power, was carrying 19 crew members when it capsized during a severe storm off the Gulf Coast. 12 people are still missing.
What we know of the weather conditions at the time is that we had 80 to 90 mile-per-hour winds.
Boater Bruce Simon got caught in the same storm and heard multiple distress signals coming from the troubled ship.
Mayday, 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 we need assistance. One after the other.
Chaz Morales, a father of 3, is one of the missing crew members.
He loves his baby so much. We need him to come home.
The search for the missing will continue through the night. Jesse Mitchell, CBS News, Grand Isle, Louisiana.
And after this break, Marin will have your weather report and Scott will have your sports. Stay tuned.
Voters in Philadelphia have chosen a progressive as their new district attorney.
You want to be safe, you don't need this many jails.
My guys don't trust you. What am I to tell them?
I suggest you don't shoot unarmed people in the back.
There's no mass incarceration.
This will be controversial.
The DA's office is not a place a social experiment should be conducted.
You're being lied to.
Tuesday night at 9.
Welcome back to Public Eye News. My name is Marin Parks, and I'll be taking you through your weather today. Behind me is the beautiful NMU campus with some cloudy skies and some snow all the way out in April. But let's take a look at your current conditions. Right now, we're seeing some cloudy skies with a temperature of 34 degrees and winds blowing north-northwest at 19 miles per hour, and a barometric pressure of 30.06 inches and falling. Tonight, we will see cloudy skies with a low of 32 degrees and winds north-northwest at 16 miles an hour. And tomorrow, we will be seeing some partly cloudy skies with a high of 38 degrees and winds blowing north at 15 miles an hour. Let's take a look at your conditions across the UP. It's cloudy all across, so starting in Sault Ste. Marie, we've got a temperature of 41 degrees. Manistee sees a temperature of 39 degrees. Escanaba, a temperature of 42 degrees. And all the way down Menominee, a temperature of 45 degrees. Let's take a look at your other side of the UP. Over in Iron Mountain, we're seeing 41 degrees. In Ironwood, also 41 degrees, all the way up in Houghton, 35 degrees, and back home in beautiful Marquette, 34 degrees. And let's take a look at your week ahead. On Saturday, we will see a high of 42 degrees and a low of 32 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Then on Sunday, we will have a high of 49 degrees and a low of 36 degrees, also with some partly cloudy skies. And on Monday, we will see a high of 42 degrees and a low of 30 degrees with some scattered rain and snow showers throughout the day. Now let's go over to Scott for your sports update.
Thanks a lot, Marin. Well, the weather is not the only thing changing up here in the Upper Peninsula. Kevin Luke, the head coach of the Michigan Tech Huskies men's basketball team, is retiring after 27 years of leading the program. Over his career, Coach Luke has won 471 games, which gives him the most wins out of any of Michigan Tech's Division II coaches. As a coach, he led Michigan Tech to 3 GLIAC North Division titles, 3 GLIAC tournament titles, and 10 NCAA appearances. In 2003, he was awarded Basketball Times National Coach of the Year and led the Huskies to a 29-3 season and a #1 national ranking. Michigan Tech is going to make an announcement about the future of the program at 9:30 tomorrow morning. New rules are coming to the NCAA as the association has passed new legislation which allows athletes a one-time transfer with immediate eligibility for Division I athletes. In previous years, athletes have had to sit out for a full calendar year after transferring, but now can immediately become eligible to play after transferring schools. The new rule is expected to bring big changes to the college sports landscape, as it will allow athletes to have more flexibility on where to play without having to forfeit an entire season. Some are referring to the change as bringing free agency to college sports and expect more athletes will begin to transfer moving forward. Yesterday, Arizona became the latest of many states to legalize sports betting. Arizona Diamondbacks owner Derek Hall is praising the decision, calling it a win-win for everyone. Hall thinks the move will be beneficial for both sports teams and fans, as it will raise money and keep fans interested in games they normally wouldn't be. According to a state senator who endorsed the legislation of sports betting, it could easily raise $100 million for the general fund of the state. Every sports team in the state is eager and excited to get sports betting going. Well, that's all I have for sports, but it sounds like there's some other interesting news, Ross.
Oh, a very sneaky and slithery one, that's for sure. A snake was recently found in a plastic-wrapped head of lettuce in Australia, and I don't think it was coming over for dinner. The venomous pale-headed snake made a 540-mile journey to Sydney from a packing plant in Australian city town of Toowoomba, wrapped in a plastic and within 2 heads of cost lettuce. Authorities say the refrigeration in the supermarket literally lulled the cold-blooded ophidian to a deep sleep until the lettuce was taken home. Wildlife Information Rescue and Education Service Reptile Coordinator Gary Patterson said the caring for the sleepy serpent will be returned into Queensland next week. And that's a very fun story there. I would not want to be trying to make a salad and just come home to see a big old snake. I was actually reading the story, it said it was a giant worm. But that's all the time we have today for Public Eye News. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Ross Ray.
And I'm Scott Minshaw.
And make sure you tune in tomorrow for your final edition for the week of Public Eye News.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.